All right, Awesemo, here we go. It is another NBA Live Before Lock here. We are coming to you with a two-game slate. We have one game going off at 9 o'clock. We have one game going off at 10. And then we've got like 6 hours, 7 hours of programming tomorrow already in the can. We've got 4 different Super Bowl shows and or Super Bowl betting shows. Those are all on the Awesemo Podcast Network. I've been listening to those today in between work stuff. So it's been pretty good. Eric, we're back. Twice in 1 week.
Back. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I wish it were under different circumstances with my lineups at the moment, but that is the nature of NBA in the year 2021.
It is. So we've got some good topics here to talk about. Good topics, not fun, because we had a little issue here with one Kevin Durant. Now he's potentially could play off the bench. We're waiting. If we understand it correctly, and once I've been doing show prep, so I wasn't digging into this, it sounds like there was an inconclusive test. That was like as of 7 minutes ago was the last news I had. If he comes back with a clean test, he can play tonight for under the health and safety protocol. So really, we have to wait till right up until the games for people to get tests or the results back. That I don't
for us
understand.
To get news about it is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, how is there nobody reporting what's going on with that? Like, is there nobody in the building working for the Nets or working for somebody? Because a lot of the things that like make the NBA function right now is the interest of the TV crowd, the interest of us in the gambling and the DFS space. It's like, what are you doing? Like, be useful in some way, shape, or form. Be useful.
It's just frustrating. And we're just going to talk on this for a minute while we wait for people to gather. Not to fear, we got an hour. We'll break down the games. We have all but one piece of news. The only thing we don't have yet is Paul George from that standpoint. So we've got time here. And one of the feedback that we've gotten on this show is a lot of people like hearing what we have to say when it comes down to just approaching different things. These are the situations and stuff that really there aren't many shows about. We can talk about them the next morning, but it doesn't have the same impact.
You checked into the game.
Oh, he did. Okay, there we go.
So awesome. So all of that ridiculousness that just went down was, I guess I do have a lot of Rodney McGruder now, so that's going to be exciting in those lineups. Did not expect that happening 15 minutes ago, but so be it. Ready to roll.
So tell people, just give us the 2 minutes on how this, now that you're breathing a sigh of relief, you don't have 25%.
Well, I'm sort of. I'll just go from the beginning. So we get this news that Kevin Durant, it's like 5 minutes after lock of that game at 4:30. So it's 4:35. So you get news that he's ruled out. So you obviously have that
Coast,
5
everybody.
seconds.
West Coast, deep breaths.
West Coast, yes. I apologize. We're the best coast, as you will. So anyway, we get the news that it hits, and so you have that 5 seconds where it's like, well, son of a bitch. But then you decide that we're going to go on from there, and you just have to start making decisions. And so I had 100% Hamidou Diallo across every single site today. There was really no question that was going to kind of be what I was going to do. I kind of knew that last night. And coming into today, it was kind of like, how do I get different in some of these spots? And one thought, like, so you had Harden and Kyrie go off the other night. So I decided to go like 25% Kevin Durant, which I thought would be well over the field. I love his price tag over on DraftKings 9,600. You get that news. And so then it becomes, well, what are my viable pivots to try to even like salvage a guy? Like if a guy who's 10K gets ruled out of your lineup, generally you're dead anyway. But like there is the offhanded chance that you can salvage some of that money in some way, shape, or form. So I started making viable pivots. And for me, Wayne Ellington, Derrick Rose got ruled out of the middle of nowhere. So we'll talk about that. Wayne Ellington is now unlikely to play. So it's like, well, Rodney McGruder's 3K over on DK. Why not take some shots on like the only other shooting guard there in a possible blowout who could maybe play 25 minutes now? There's really nobody. It's him and Svi, pretty much Mikhailuk. So those were like the only two. And I was like, I feel a lot better playing McGruder, who actually played in the last game like 16 minutes.
Now, what I didn't tell Eric, but I will tell him now, I only had 3% of Kevin Durant. So
Thanks.
I was singing on the inside,
Your
but I
old
would
pal
not have told him
Matt.
that.
Come on. Are you kidding me? Jeez. All right. Well, we just got hit that gong, by the way. We got to hit that gong. We got some news.
Oh,
all right, right off the bat.
Lead us
5
through
seconds
it.
in.
I just missed it.
So we're gonna scratch the gong, but Paul George just got ruled out. We were waiting on that news. That's kind of the big piece of what we needed for this late slate to kind of be able to identify where we're going to go here now. I would have had some interest at like a 10-15% Paul George had he been in. 0% now, obviously. So let's get on delay. That's beautiful. On delay. Beautiful. Gosh,
I'm going to jump
I
a
love
lot.
working with you guys. This is so good. All right, continue on.
I can't wait to see my face. What was that?
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we have, I was looking at this. So I had an upload issue again tonight. In this case, I reset my entire crunch. So I was just asking Eric for some tips and tricks of how he looks at different stuff. Now I was able to just, I literally had 90 seconds left. I set everybody at 50%. Ownership caps and just ran with it. And I moved a few of the OKC guys up higher. The issue I ran into is I hit a few more bulls than I really wanted to, which kind of locked me. So my choice at that point, though, was to scrap everything, because this time I set everybody from the 8 o'clock or later games. However, I really wanted Sabonis and I really wanted Vucevic. So those were guys that were key plays. So I didn't want to skip out on that. So now I'm rolling out here with 7% Valentine and stuff like that. So not horrible plays, but not exactly what I wanted from my carefully crafted spending an hour on something and then foolishly erasing the settings. So these are just things you have to look to. And now I'm on air and I'm not angry because this stuff happens. When you do enough of these, it's gonna happen. Yeah,
as long as you're not exposing yourself to your entire bankroll every night, that would be great decision number one. You can't let something like this really ruin your day completely, but it is a bummer because stuff like this happens. You kind of have to react and go with the information you have available. I'm always working forward thinking. We're like, okay, something happens. There's nothing I can do about anything that happened after a lock time happens. What's the best available play to me? Like, obviously, Hamidou Diallo is still my favorite play of the entire day by a landslide, just in terms of related to his salary. And I think his ownership reflects that. But in those lineups where I have Kevin Durant, I thought it was the viable thing for me to try to just salvage some money in some of those. And obviously now he's going to check in, and now I'm upset. Now I'm doubly upset, but it'll work its way out. I made the best decision I could with the news that I had in front of me. Yeah.
And this could have been one where I was kicking my heels for joy because I only had 3% Kevin Durant, right? So who knows where it's all going to land. Right. But let's talk about some free stuff here at Awesemo. We have the free projections today. We've got 2 more games. There's a 2-game late slate on most of the sites. So we have over on DraftKings, we have $200,000 in their 2-game contests. They have a $275,000 in their showdowns. I believe their marquee contest is a $200,000, $15 entry fee. FanDuel has over $175,000 in their 2-game contests. They also have showdown, and all the sites are doing Boston and the Clippers is showdown because that's the last slate. But FanDuel has $100,000 in their showdown. It's at a 555. Yahoo's running their 2-gamer, and then SuperDraft, of course, doing their late slate. Key news here that we have. So the first game's at 9 o'clock. That's in 51 minutes. We have Detroit at Phoenix, 214. And I pulled these before the Derrick Rose news, but they'll probably be about the same. 214 over under, 7.5 point favorite for Phoenix. Wouldn't surprise me if that ticks up a point or two, but it shouldn't drive the needle that much. Derrick Rose confirmed out. He has an illness. Wayne Ellington, I believe he's out with a calf. And then on the other side, Jay Crowder and Cameron Payne are out with foot injuries. Cameron Payne's missed, 2 weeks now, or he's missed a while. Sarich is out with an ankle. There's a chance they're all back for their next game, but Crowder's the guy that was added to the list with his foot issue. We did get our news there for Paul George. He is out. Patrick Beverley already out. And then for Boston, Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown are out. Kemba Walker and Peyton Pritchard are in. So those are the key things there. That's a 220 over under, and it's 6.5 points there for the Clippers. First and foremost is the Paul George news here. Who are the ancillary plays which I can say that word, but I can't say
Ancillary.
it when I read it. I've been on. That's
so
like
good.
I've just been
ancillary. It's like
I've
like
had
a
to give
vegetable.
up on it. It's now become. I used to not be able to say Ennis Cantor. I'd say Cantner or something like that for a full year of doing shows. So I would try to call him Ennis the Menace or stuff like that. Now there's some random word that I don't know. By the way, my mom was an English teacher, so I know lots and lots of words, but every now and then something gets stuck in your mind and you're just like, I'm not going to say it wrong. I'm not going to say it wrong. I said it wrong, right?
What's difficult for me is like when I'm reading the word, like when I read the name, it screws with my head as opposed to like what I know the pronunciation, like Nikola Vucevic. Like I can say it easily here, but as soon as I have to like read it off a page, I am screwed. That is a fact.
From the Wizards, Pashesniks. I don't even want to read it, but I'll say it. The same thing with Denny Avdia.
Denny Avdia, yeah. Reading his name just messes with my head as opposed to like I know it's Avdia.
It's not Abdijah. It's so I can't look at it. I just have to hear it. So I'll go and watch YouTube clips to get the pronunciations down. But there's nothing for ancillary. I can't even do it. It's now going to trip me up. Secondary, tertiary, alternative. We'll keep going down the path of the thesaurus words here. But back to Paul George, PG-13 out. Is this a little boost to Nick Batum? Is this a little help to Reggie Jackson? How is this going to translate across? Because this is our biggest moving part.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the on-off court tools. So I was, I've got a site that I go to, and it's with Paul George off the court right now. Reggie Jackson sees the biggest boost. He's seeing a 4% usage differential, so he's going to project out a lot better. He's got currently 210 minutes with Paul George off the court this year. He's averaging 35.88 DraftKings points per 36. So he's basically exactly 1 point per minute guy. So you're going to see him kind of see a little bit of that boost the most. Kawhi Leonard obviously sees a little bit of a bump. It's a little less pronounced, 2.9% usage, still a 50 fantasy point per 36 guy, just like you would expect him to be. So we kind of see and can identify those right off the bat. Nicholas Batum is kind of like the next guy in line for a lot of things. Actually, no, that is a complete lie. Luke Kennard is kind of grading out for me fantastically well. I'm curious what Alex is going to have for the upgrade. That game doesn't start till 7 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we're going to have plenty of time to kind of see his take on those two. And that's kind of what I'm going to default to a little bit. But like Batum is obviously still going to start. He's not a high usage guy in general, somebody that you kind of need to get there with ancillary stats, if you will.
You're just going to troll me on that
and
word.
So if you want to like fire that up, so there's definitely some of that, but then you're getting down to like Marcus Morris, who's definitely going to see a little bit of a bump. Luke Kennard, specifically the guy that I brought up, I'm curious to kind of see where he's going to kind of fit into the mold. A guy that I could see end up being one of the two guys that I would kind of peg to be in the starting lineup instead. It would be him or Morris. I would probably expect it to be Kennard in this spot.
Okay, and that kind of makes sense. Yeah, Marcus Morris wild card. Wait, revenge, right? Wasn't if we did
so
revenge on
the other day? Well, when he was like 30% owned.
Yeah,
revenge. that's a Bikram yoga stretch there, but he's got revenge against everybody. He just has revenge in his heart. So He's these Morris brothers, man. I love them, but only if they're on your team, I guess. But Marcus Morris could definitely possibly get there in this spot too. But like Luke Kennard, I think right now is probably the guy I would see starting in this situation. We're going to obviously have that news before that game. I'll be able to kind of adjust some pieces from there. But in the next like 10, 15 minutes, as that updates on Awesemo, I'll run a fresh crunch and kind of see. I'm making 40 lineups on both sites for the late slate. We'll kind of, for the two gamers. So we'll kind of piece it from there.
All right, that's kind of fun. So we've got a bunch of stuff coming up here. I mentioned and dropped into the link there or into the chat. We have our free NBA player projections tonight. We also have a Super Bowl contest on the Awesemo_COM Twitter channel. I'm going to drop that in. It's the pinned tweet, so you have until the Super Bowl to follow the instructions. But we are giving away a $1,000 all-access platinum pass for Awesemo, so you get everything. Definitely want to check that out. Well worth it. There are also Instagram. I signed up for Instagram and I watched Alex do a little AMA. Yeah, the Graham.
You gonna get some swimsuit pics in?
That's on my Finsta account.
Let's get weird.
Yeah,
let's get weird.
So
OnlyFans.
Anyway, I'm now on Instagram, so here we go. One more piece of social media I'm not going to pay attention to. Sir, I don't even read texts anymore. DM me via Twitter, Mom, if you really want to get a hold of me, I guess. Just kidding, because I know she's going to watch this one. All right, so the moving. So tennis is back. We got the Australian Open coming up next week. For our shows tomorrow. 10 a.m. we got the NBA strategy show with Jason Floyd and Adam Scherer. 11 a.m. we got the NFL strategy show with Kyle Dvorak and Matt Gajewski. At 2 we have Jay Kari and Slim Cliffy, Michael Clifford, doing the NHL strategy show. At 3, I believe it's 6. I think it's 6 o'clock lock for MMA, but at 3, from 3 to 4:30, we have the live before lock MMA with Jason Floyd and Pete Rogers. At 6, we go into the deeper dive with Spags and Greg. And then at 7, we're going into NBA live before lock. That will be myself and Terry. Premium show behind the paywall around 4. Terry's going to go over how to make NFL lineups and use different strategies in Cruncher and look at the different sites. So that's if you are a subscriber. And then for NFL Sunday, we have 3 hours leading up to kickoff. We may be debuting some new stuff. Just saying, you might want to tune in and check that out. But please do hit the like button, and thank you all for helping us get the 50,000 subscribers. That has it's a very, very interesting milestone. The town I grew up in, 2,500 people. So the fact that we have 50,000, it's like, wow, that was like not even the big city next to us, which was like 25,000 people. You should see the towns that I didn't think we lived in a hick town. You should see what I thought was a hick town until I went to college.
Up in South Dakota. So there's
so
that.
You're well
I'm from Sioux Falls. But actually, I grew up in the Mecca of South Dakota, Sioux Falls. It's a beautiful spot, 240,000 people probably. It was a beautiful spot to grow up, but you go any which way and you can run into some desolation quick. That's for sure.
All right, so we'll do a little bit of a game by game breakdown of the two games. Ideally, we'll have some more news. We'll have time to start constructing lineups. We'll get the updates for the player ownership percentages as well as the player projections as we get those, and we'll talk through that stuff. The first game here is it's kind of interesting with what we're seeing with Phoenix. Shocker of shockers, they all of a sudden Chris Paul. I mean, all he does is win, at least in the regular season. It certainly feels that way. But this team has done one of the biggest 180s from just last year, the last 3 years, where they were basically play fast and just tank. And now all of a sudden, I'm calling up the standings here. They're 11-9, which for them is a massive huge increase. Yeah. They're 6th in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. By the way, 4 through 8 are all separated by half a game right now. So, and you can go 4.
The West is outrageous.
4 through 10 are separated by 1 game. Mm-hmm. But for them, this is a major improvement. This is not us thinking, hey, they're just an easy mark these days. Now, while they are giving up 108 points per game, that's like the 5th lowest in the Western Conference. So NBA's changed quite a bit. Now, like when I first started doing this, when you got, oh my God, there's a 210 over under. Oh, wow. What are we going to do? We have to play everybody from this game. And the average game was 185 to 195. Well, now nothing is below 200. Most everything's in that 215 to 225 range, 228 range. And then we've already seen 5 or 6 different games that have been higher than 240 points. We've seen multiple games this season put up 250 plus combined points in regulation. The NBA quite different this season. But circling back to the Suns here, they're not the easy mark that they once were. Detroit Pistons on the other side, yeah, they're 5-16. They got rid of a bunch of big men, and now they got more big men. I don't know what they're doing. They really could use some guards. They don't really have any good guards. So now we're looking at DeLon Wright and just not very enticing plays. So start us off with Detroit, because we only have 4 teams in our player pool. We cannot be dismissive of them like we were on the main slate. Yikes, yeah. We got to play some of these fellas.
Yeah, it's gonna get hairy really, really quick here. Obviously, Jeremy Grant is the way you start every conversation about Detroit right now. He's kind of been the offensive focal point, 25.7% usage rate, playing around 35 minutes a game, 35.7, I think, on the year. So somebody that obviously still has an upside there against Phoenix. Mikal Bridges is somebody that I don't like to pick on. I don't do much DVP, defense versus position. That's not really my thing in the NBA, because I think talent can kind of win out in any situation, and you don't want to like make that the say all and end all. Now, there are situations where team defense, like with Milwaukee, where they allow a lot of 3-pointers because that's just kind of the way that they're set up. They don't allow anything in the paint for for mid-range. They just kind of allow people to chuck it. So that's not really the issue we have here. Like, Mikal Bridges is a great individual defender, but Jeremy Grant is going to just get everything that he wants, especially now Derrick Rose coming in the second unit, or like sharing any court time with him. You're going to see that usage go up even maybe another tick, like it was in last game with Derrick Rose, where he was inactive or active and just didn't play. And so I have some interest in making sure that I can get a little bit on top of him there. He grades out well on Awesemo. He's got a B rating on both for value and for grades. So I'm pretty excited to be over the field on him in this 2-gamer. Going down the line, like obviously now with Wayne Ellington and Derrick Rose out, for me, I'm really just trying to figure out Svi or Rodney Magruder. Like, I know Rodney Magruder doesn't like make a lot of sense for a lot of people here, but like somebody has to play these minutes. Like there's a lot of shooting guard minutes that are available. February 2nd, that Utah game, he played 16 minutes. He played 6 and 16. Obviously that thing got out of control a little bit, but like I have some interest in both of them in this situation. I think Svi is probably going to end up being the more popular guy, which is why I ended up on all those Kevin Durant lineups going the other direction. But yeah, we're going to have to just kind of piece it together as we go here. I'm curious what he's going to grade out at when Alex Baker goes through and revamp some of these projections.
55 minutes. I'm eyeballing this. 55 minutes this season. How many field goal attempts do you think he has?
Oh, Lord.
This is spread across 8 games.
Rodney Magruder? I'm not going to look. How about like 7?
14.
Okay.
You're underestimating it.
But you set it up and you made it so ominous. I had to lowball it. So
that's pretty low, though.
I know 14 is a low number, especially Rodney Magruder with the Heat, if I recall, was somebody that liked to chuck at times.
Yeah. Yikes. So very hard to look at his. This is one of those minutes as opportunity kind of plays, and we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. And that's where I think some of these late slate contests or discussions and shows that we're having are kind of important. We see this a little bit when we get to the playoffs. However, the sites tweak the pricing so you can make viable lineups, because those contests are there's so much money out there and so much demand for it. But that's not always the case on these. They're pricing their players for a full slate, and they're not, there's not a ton of wiggle room in some of these with some of these prices with these guys. And all of a sudden now we're stuck looking at the deepest, darkest recesses of the pantry that nobody's seen the back of for like 10 years. Oh, okay, a little Magruder here. What's the expiration date on this?
Yeah.
Dust it off. Put it in the microwave.
I was looking at his profile. I don't think he's that old. I think he's like, what is he? What was his birth date? 1991. Yeah, he's 29. It just feels like he's been around forever, for sure. Yeah, it's not something that I expected to have, like, even in the conversation at any point today, but such is a 2-game slate. So this will be fun.
Now, talk about Mason Plumley here, moving towards our front court. He's put up some nice games. Went through some little stretch there where he fouled out of 4 out of 5 games or some amazing stuff like that, or rates like that. But over his last few games, let me call it up. I haven't looked in 2 days.
He had that 28-minute. I mean, he went a little nuts on Gobert.
Yeah, 4 straight games he fouled out of. But here's his since those 4 games, he's had 2, none, 5, 4, and 1 fouls.
Okay.
That's kind of crazy. He would have fouled out against Bam Adebayo, Atlanta, Houston of all teams, Philly. All right, we'll give him Philly. But that one night he had 6 fouls. The next night he played 9 more minutes and only had 1 foul. I guess he chose not to play defense that night against Joel Embiid because he tried playing a defense against him. Didn't work. But I don't think we have to worry that maybe that was just something, maybe a little nagging injury. He was a step behind. Who knows? But I'm not as worried about his fouling out rate, even against somebody like DeAndre Ayton.
So he's kind of a guy on FanDuel. He grades out the best for me by a landslide on this late slate for the two. I've got Plumley just around 30 and Ayton sitting at 38, but there's a difference of 3,100 between them. So in terms of like projection, I'm in love with Mason Plumley tonight from multiple aspects. Now on DraftKings, you've got Ayton, who's 7,100 at the center position, who's going to eat up a lot of that ownership. So it really becomes a question of like, what is the cost of like, obviously you can play them both together on DraftKings, so that's not an issue, but we're trying to get a little different. And I think Ayton just is going to soak up so much of that ownership at the center position that I'm going to try to start some of my lineups with Plumley and work from there in anything that I'm not going to have Ayton in. I think that that's kind of a way to get unique on this slate. Also, now that we do have some random 3K value with Svi Mikhailuk, who I can't believe that's a thing I'm thinking about too, and Rodney Magruder, you can get a little weird. It's not going to be too hard to get too unique. If you're playing in that $15 over on DraftKings tonight for the night slate, I think they both are going to come in with a little bit of ownership. That news broke pretty darn early, so I expect them to have that ownership. I'm going to refresh the ownership projections, and I think in my main lineup, I'm just going to kind of go to the lower owned of the two.
All right. And while you are doing that, I have just run 10 unencumbered. I haven't put the ownership in yet, but I put in our projections just to see where everything's going to kind of play out, because it's always good to know where are things on the top end. So it looks basically just with the 10 lineups, the highest one is we'll call it 271, and it looks like the lowest one is 264. So you can see already that's a spread of 10. Now I told it to go 3 uniques, which I definitely need to change. So let's go back to
can probably
none on that and just see what happens. Well, I like to just
I get it.
I'm gun shy with my settings now. So running it that way looks like 269 is I thought I took randomness off. 269 is the highest, and then 264 is the lowest among them. Okay. So it evened it out a little bit, but what it's showing is there's going to be some drop-offs here. Now, a lot of it's going to depend on as you create more lineups, and now you're starting to pull in the Frank Kaminsky's, the Svi Mikhailik's popping up here, Josh Revenge Jackson, we should say, Cam Johnson, stuff like that. So all of a sudden you're like, yikes. Really looks like the core key guys that it really wants to try to get in are Tatum and Kawhi Leonard, which makes sense because they're the 2 highest raw projected point guys. And then Chris Paul's next, but he's not making it in because we have some cheaper guys at point guard that's trying to put in. So sometimes on these short slates, it's kind of nice to just see what we're looking at and what we're working with. So what I would say on something like this, and I learned this from watching Alex do this stuff, he says, I really don't want to have that many lineups that in this case would be less than about 10, maybe 15, because it's basketball and weird things can happen, maybe 15 points from what the optimal lineup is. So he really, on a night like this, would want to keep everybody kind of in that 250 to 265. If I'm understanding watching some of his shows and his premium behind the paywall shows where he talks about this. Do you set a baseline like this when you're looking just to kind of get a feel for things?
I do sometimes. I think on a 2-game slate, I'm more inclined not to. For me, it becomes a question of what am I trying to leverage on the field? Like, we'll talk about Jason Tatum. We'll talk about the Celtics. We'll get to a lot of those guys. And then Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges are 2 guys that I think I'm just going to be really, really underweight on. And that's just purely because of the level of usage we've seen. So for me, I'm less concerned about that. And I'm more concerned about like, what is my pool? What are my exposures going to look like? And how do I go from there in terms of like building a unique lineup? And I worry less about those type things on a shorter slate. On a larger slate, sure, I'll factor it in a little bit more.
All right, I see a question here. Do we like Teague or Pritchard? Yeah, not really.
After everybody was calling Teague fat the other night, that was very mean. That was mean-spirited.
Yeah. So I would prefer Teague personally. Pritchard's been out with a knee injury. It looks like he hasn't played since the 22nd. He only played 2 minutes in that game, so that must have been when he got hurt. But his point per minutes are they're not that great. He's had a few good games, but those were games with no Kemba, no other people. I just feel like this is if you're Brad Stevens, do you really want to put Pritchard out there against a pretty good defense, or would you rather have Jeff Teague in
Actually,
what could be a winnable game for them? How would you look at it that way?
For me, it's such a wash because both are so out of play for me at this point. I know Marcus Smart's out. I know Jaylen Brown's out. Like Pritchard, I think because he's cheaper over on DraftKings, I believe he's like 3,900, and then you have Teague at 4,700. I think I would probably take some shots on Pritchard over them. And it's not like from a projection standpoint, even like, again, I find it difficult. Like Teague looked terrible the other night. I tried to have some shares. It was confusing me that he wasn't even like remotely popular with Kemba Walker out. But Pritchard has looked good in his limited time. I know he's coming back from the knee. I just don't see those minutes getting extended. And so now, again, we have some cheap value. We have some guys that we can punt with. And if you're going to punt, you might as well go all the way down to the bottom with a 3K guy who can play 25 minutes, 30 minutes, than Pritchard, who it's a big unknown. And you're maybe going to project him out for 10 or 11 and Teague the same. And Teague's 4,700 and pretty much remotely out of play for me.
Javonte Green.
Oh, boy. Is that a question? Did somebody ask that?
Yes.
Oh, no.
That was a premium side. So here's kind of my thought on that.
I'm just going to pull up the Celtics. Let's talk about the Celtics.
Yeah, the better defenders are the wing players for the Clippers, and he's a wing player. It's not like Kawhi's going to be shutting him down. Kawhi's going to be looking at he's going to be going wherever he needs to go. But now we're talking about Marcus Morris. Luke Kennard's not horrible. He plays good position defense. There's a variety of guys. So all of a sudden now you got Javonte Green, who's going to kind of have to work for it. I think they're kind of, those three are kind of interchangeable. Of all of them, I still prefer Teague, but this is kind of choosing the old guy veteran, right? I want experience, and that's just where it's going to be for me. That's not necessarily the right way to go about it. It's not the wrong way either, but this is not a tried and true method.
I'm going to just pull up both of their rates here. Smart off. I mean, obviously Peyton Pritchard chalk day went very, very poorly for me. And I've liked Peyton Pritchard. Like he came out of Oregon. I'm marrying into an Oregon family, a bunch of Ducks. So they love Peyton Pritchard. I'm trying to figure out though, like I don't really see a purpose. Like Javonte Green is crazy popular over on FanDuel. I just clicked on that. I saw that we have him projected for like 33% ownership, which just like blows my mind a little bit. I don't know how updated that is. It's just that we have so many of these other guys that just make more sense now, especially on DraftKings, where the minimum kind of works out differently. Like the opportunity cost of the position in general over on FanDuel, like, yeah, you can get a different roster construction going down there to try to change it up. But like Chris Paul and Reggie Jackson and DeLon Wright, like all those guys are just so like exponentially better plays than trying to take a shot on Teague or a shot on Pritchard. So yeah, golly, I can't believe Javonte Green's ownership right now. I'm assuming people think he's going to start, and maybe that's why it's thrown in there. And sure, maybe he starts. I could also see Semi Ojeleye. I could also see Williams maybe starting randomly. I could also see them going, I guess not against the Clippers where they do the Tice Thompson combo, but that's happened multiple times this year. If they wanted to get different, they've shown a propensity to do that. So with Smart off, with Green off, there's really no rules. And until I see that starting lineup, I don't want to freak out too much.
All right. Wayne Ellington officially ruled out.
Okay.
That might have been unofficial previously. We've got 27 minutes to lock here. Just looking at our Awesemo projections, they were updated 26 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago for the late slate ownership projections. Since we did have the free ownership projections today, not the late slate, just the main slate, I'm going to throw a few out here for you. This may change. They'll do one more run beforehand, but we're looking at this DK first, Tatum at 67, Kemba Walker at 62, Kawhi at 57, Chris Paul at 57, Jeremy Grant 54, DeAndre Ayton 52. This is kind of how two gamers work. The higher as long as people are appropriately priced, we're going for raw points. They all I was going to say raw porn apparently, but we're not doing that by any stretch of the imagination.
Late slate show.
Yeah, after dark. So that's DraftKings. FanDuel, it gets a little more interesting because we've got the five positions. So now we're playing the game within the game. Not as much flexibility. Devin Booker, this one kind of blows my mind. 92%.
Wow.
He's 7,600. You got to fill a pesky shooting guard spot. Our next options after him are Luke Kennard and Javonte Green. Svi Mikhailiuk. Yeah, so now you can see why everybody's just going to plug in. How do you go differently on that one? I don't think you do. I don't know where you're going to make those points up. Jason Tatum is 90%. That's power forward. The other power forwards we have are Blake Griffin at 35, Ibaka at 27, Daniel Tice at 18. So now you're kind of like, all right, raw points. It's definitely going to be Tatum. Point guard gets a little interesting, except Kemba Walker's still 5,700 like he was the other night when we did the show. So he's 76%. Chris Paul is 8,000. He's 69%. And then Kawhi Leonard, 62, 8, 61. Jeremy Grant, 55. And then people just start tailing off at that point. Mm-hmm. But that might be helpful for a few people, having some fun.
Man, you're just handing it all out for free today. You're in a good
I don't
mood.
even have a money.
Good mood.
I don't have a
Flip
money.
it.
Yeah.
Travis Matthews something or another. Cha-ching. Hey, Tyler, there he is. My guy.
Tyler is paying attention. I couldn't tell. I mentioned the word porn. He's like, oh, I got to check my Pornhub account. Let me go see that's going on.
Tyler just wants to talk Super Bowl. Let's be serious. Tyler is so over this. He is just like, get me to Sunday. Let's go. It's time to ride. Ride or die, baby.
Well, the key thing is, 3 hours of shows for Super Bowl Sunday. We've got an hour of NFL tomorrow, and then we've already got 4 hours in the can on the Awesemo podcast network, which is how I've been listening to it. But we had Alex and Spags do a full breakdown on Fantasy Draft, who's actually running $1 million contest. Bucks Deluxe for the buy-in. I believe it's 4,000 or 4,400, but they are doing $1 million contest. That's not $1 million to first, but $1 million contest. Why? They're now backed by a casino, or partnered with a casino. So they're trying to acquire their users to come on over and try different things. So now, great time to be alive out there. They do also have a lot of buy-ins that are available for the rest of us, but they spent 40 minutes breaking that down. We've got a bunch of other stuff. We've had a couple different betting shows to break through everything, including Lofty Ben and Matt Kajeski talking about props and all that fun stuff. I've been checking that out. We have the Awesemo odds page, which has all sorts of articles and content. And then we, of course, have Odd Shopper. So that's all the good stuff that we can check out. All right, 23 minutes to go here. I'm going to start putting my crunch and/or player pool together.
That is a great idea.
We just got ownership updated 1 minute ago.
Saw that. What's Javonte Green again?
Oops, I already gave it out. Sorry, folks. Let me see if anything dramatically changed. I'll give you that. Jason Tatum is now number one on FanDuel at 87. Booker at 87, Kawhi Leonard at 77, Kemba Walker at 69, Chris Paul at 64. So Tatum surged, but where else are you going to spend your money? Which kind of then becomes the function of, all right, I've got all this salary cap. I really don't want to leave $4,500 on the table because I'm not making up these raw points anywhere on that. DK, Tatum and Kawhi are tied for first at 69, Chris Paul 55, Kemba 55. There you go.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for me, so I think one of the things to talk about too is like you can have different approaches to some of these two games. So for me, I like to think about who do I really want to leverage compared to the field. Like you can play a lot of people at the field more than normal on a two gamer because they're limited plays. Like Tatum, Walker, Leonard, Paul, all great plays. For me, I feel like identifying one or two guys down in that mid tier and going overweight on them. So like for me, I've identified Jeremy Grant. I mean, he's 54%. It's not like he's unowned, but by going 85% in my 41 lineups, I give myself a little bit of an upside. I know he's cheaper than Tatum. I know that he's, going to be much more like lower owned than Kawhi at the same position at small forward over on DraftKings. So I'm kind of finding these situations where there are certain guys that I just kind of want to go overweight on that kind of like naturally reduces my exposure to Bridges, to Johnson, to some of these other small forwards. And then I'll go over to FanDuel here next. I think that's just kind of a different ball game altogether because you do play two at every single position. So it's kind of just like finding a construction where you can leave something on the table, give yourself an opportunity to like not split with like 55 people and still give yourself a realistic outcome of winning. Similar to what we do in NFL all the time for Showdown.
All right, basketball show and now porn info. Damn it, we need more likes.
We're gonna have bots coming in now. That's like the next step.
I may have said the magic word. Oh no!
Oh no! They're coming for us.
Yeah, I don't that my luck and things like that. I don't bother going to any untoward sites because I already have enough computer and tech issues as is. I don't need the variable of getting viruses or whatever they're calling those these days. All right, here we've got 60 likes. Come on, let's get to 75. Well, what are they? Trojan horses, worms? See, those are interchangeable terms. I see what they're doing there with those terms.
EMac, you're dating yourself. Stop.
Yes. Well, that'd be kind of weird, but we do allow alternative lifestyles. If I wanted to, I could date there.
My lord, it's like me today with my Hamidou Diallo joke on Twitter, where I just couldn't help myself.
Saw how quickly I liked that. I was trying to think of a comeback.
I guess I was appealing to you. I had some nice memes, and like people enjoyed that one. I'm gonna have to go more towards the dad humor. Maybe that's my branding. I gotta like really, really cheese it up. Oh man, don't mind if I Hamidou.
Yes, absolutely. All right, back to sanity here. So talk a little bit about what you're seeing on FanDuel as you're starting to maneuver your lineups. And are you going back to your originals without Magruder, or are you sticking with Magruder?
No, I'm gonna get off a little bit here. I mean, I'm not feeling fantastic about it as is. Like, I think Svi. I mean, I'm looking around and like Svi, I think might make a little bit more sense. They're both not projecting well. Don't get me wrong. These are not guys that I'm sitting. Again, these are things to talk about on a 2-game slate. I think they both have like D grades or E grades or something ridiculous. But sometimes it just takes a little bit. Like, it just takes one situation where Svi, like, do we have that starting lineup? That's the quote. Oh, there it is. Literally, I just looked down and it hits. We have Wright, Bay, Grant, Griffin, Plumley. All right. So Saddiq Bey, Frank Kaminsky is starting.
I love that play.
Luke Kennard is starting. So called that one. That's nice. Wow. Okay. We just literally got every starting lineup. So I'm going to run these down for you, EMac, and then I want your analysis on this. Okay. We'll roll reversal because again, that's what we're into here. Alternative lifestyles. We have Wright, Bay, Grant, Griffin, Plumley for Detroit. We have the Suns, Paul, Booker, Bridges, Kaminsky, Ayton. So we did see Kaminsky and Ayton start together, We saw them play alongside each other a little bit more. My guess is like, they played pretty well. Like, I think it was maybe only like 4 or 5 minutes, but they looked good on the floor together. Kaminsky gives you that outside shooting where he's been on of late. Like, it's kind of surprising to me he hasn't gotten more run, especially with how poor Johnson and Bridges have shot the ball. So, I mean, this is just kind of the spot where they decided that they were going to make the move there. And so what do you think about Frank Kaminsky specifically? You said you were excited about that.
I'm thrilled with that. He's going to be the kind of the guy where I'm going to plant my flag. So where other people are trying to suss out what's going on with the Boston guys, I'm just going to go straight to Kaminsky. I'm not particularly scared of the Detroit guys playing the front court, playing a lot of defense. There's going to be a lot of competition for the rebounds, but let's face it, I'm going to try to go way under the field on Blake Griffin. I actually like Plumley at this point. I probably will end up under on Ayton by going to those guys, and hopefully that helps facilitate me bumping up to some of the maybe different wing plays or that next level up of 7th and 8th men or maybe a fringe starter off of one of the teams. Whereas a lot of others that kind of go Ayton and or Kawhi and Tatum are all of a sudden now they're trying to find the cheap guys from the Boston players, from the Luke Kennards, etc. So that's going to be my where I kind of make my stand.
I like it. I'm trying to figure out also, man, I have some weird takes here that I'm starting to piece together a little bit. So Cameron Johnson was somebody I still have no interest in. I'm not really going that direction. Josh Jackson on FanDuel, I'm getting a ton of in my 40 lineups at 4,400 at small forward, which is not something I expected to be happening. I generally come in low on him just about every single time, even on days that he has projected out well previously this year. Again, I just don't know who else is going to get some of these minutes. Like Saddiq Bey is obviously a much, much better play over on DraftKings. He's 3,500, I guess, on FanDuel too. But like, Josh Jackson coming in and he could really kind of mess up that whole situation a little bit for me if he played well. So, oh man, this is kind of a mess. Saddiq Bey 3,500. That's somebody to, let me look at his stuff here too. Those were just like a lot of things to pop up all at once. He's 3,100 over on DraftKings. We've seen him start multiple times earlier this season. He was playing like big minutes. He played 25, 26, 27 minutes comparatively for him. Last two, he's only played 15 and 10. But like, again, there's nobody that's going to be inhibiting his run. He's a rookie. You have no reason to be not giving him that run over Magruder in that situation, or Svi, who you kind of know who he is too. So I think Jackson and Saddiq Bey kind of become the two guys that I am going to be hammering a lot more of going into the last couple minutes here.
Josh Jackson returning to Phoenix. They want me to point that out.
You said it. You said it. I didn't believe you. And 5,100 on DraftKings is probably a pass for me. I'm not going to get crazy there, but 4,400 over on FanDuel at a small forward position that's basically Kawhi lock button, and then, or not necessarily lock button, but like Jeremy Grant, and you go Saddiq Bey, and you just have a strange roster construction where you can pay up for everybody else and get different. Now, definitely I'll probably have to have Ayton in some of those lineups, but now Kaminsky at 4,500 is just so interesting. Man, I did not expect that to happen today.
All right, I've got my lineups made. I'm just going to roll with them here. So I'm going 86% Tatum and Kawhi, 43% Paul, 40% Ayton. Oops, let me sort it by this. 2/3 Kemba, 2/3 Kaminsky, Jeremy Grant 60, Josh Jackson 57, Mikal Bridges. Don't feel great about this, but it is Detroit 54, Chris Paul 43. Feels to be a little bit of a casualty. I'm actually under the field on him. Reggie Jackson 43. I'm doubling up on the field there. Who's going to defend him with no Marcus Smart? They're not going to be Jeff Teague, I can tell you that much. Cam Johnson, I'm matching the field. I'm not really excited about him. Luke Kennard, looks like we have an old update here. I'm sure he's going to be higher than 5%. I've got 30%. I'm guessing that's around where he'll come in. Svi Mykhailiuk, 23%. There is the bane of my existence. Not the banes, but the bane of my existence.
That was your Bane impression. That's what we're going for.
Something along those lines. That's a Fast Eddie special.
I was born in the darkness.
Yeah, no, I'm not very good with voices.
I liked it. So yeah, the Kaminsky price. The one issue that you do run into on DraftKings is that he's at center. So 3,400. People aren't going to be able to react to that the way that they should in the last 20 minutes. So I think I'm going to boost him up even more. You said 2/3. I might be going somewhere in the ballpark of like 75, 85%. I'm going to just boost him up. I mean, we had him at, what was he before? 19, 18 and a half. So yeah, that's going to become a different number very, very soon in the starting lineup. It's just secure minutes for Kaminsky, which is something that we never have ever said about him. Oh man, what a time to be alive. So Wisconsin rejoices.
A question for you. Because we're on the show and because we're doing a bunch of other stuff, if you weren't on this show, would you go back and try to get more Kaminsky in your main lineups?
I'm trying to do that right now.
Okay,
I'm doing that. I am doing the best that I can. That was a lot of stuff that was coming in quick, and the Magruder. I mean, I'm trying to get as much. I mean, Saddiq Bey isn't super fun play by any means, but like, he's an unowned guy at 3,100 at a small forward position where if I didn't have Kenrich Williams, who was doing nothing, I just saw, because for me, my late swap process is really just reacting to what is happening in these games as it's going on. And so if I do have some lineups with some of these dead, crappy small forwards, it's going to be hard to get to them in those. But some of these other ones where I didn't have him, I'm going to just try to get some Saddiq Bey, pair him with like Leonard, Tatum, and have a blast.
All right. Well, we do have 69 likes, and that is nice. Let's get us a couple more here. I see Rinpack is in the chat here.
Rinpack, my dude.
Yeah, I've made it, Mom. Rinpack's watching us.
God, that's I could awesome. Not love this day. Just got better. There it is. Rinpack, hang on. Rinpack, tell us what to do. Tell us what to do. Just honestly,
get him the link. Get him in.
Why are we here? Just have Rinpack just start spamming the chat with his take on Bey, on Jackson. Please, just fire it up. I know you're being pampered by Fantasy Draft, but please just let me know all the things.
All right, so I'm going to drop in here the pin tweet over on Awesemo. Reminder, that's good through the Super Bowl, through kickoff of the Super Bowl, but it's your chance to win a full year of Awesemo Premium. Definitely want to check that one out. All right, let me see.
I have 95% Frank Kaminsky. I'm just
now I'm feeling left out. That's my guy. What are you doing on my guy?
Well, I didn't rerun the numbers yet. It's not my fault.
Oh,
I'm working here. I'm working here.
Right.
Come on now.
Jeez, I feel
95. Get on my level, kid. Get on my level.
All right. Let's see. I am looking. We got 10 minutes to go. Let's just see what we've got.
Somebody that I didn't expect to have any of that is sneaking in on stuff too. I have to say, because there is, I'm not really worried about a blowout or anything, but there is some sneaky Terrence Mann love that I have. And I'm getting like 5%
here's the news.
Of him.
He was going to start over Luke Kennard.
He was.
And then when Jaylen Brown was out,
they flipped it.
They decided to go the other way.
So I still think that there is a possibility. So we are talking about a 2-game slate where you're trying to beat 40,000 people in a GPP on a limited set of players. And if you're trying to think of expected outcomes, like I don't think this game blows out by any means, but if it does, there is definitely a chance as a pivot to some of these other guys. I still think the Pistons, like between Jackson, are going to project out as better plays, but Terrence Mann has shown a propensity to get stuff done. If he gets like that fourth quarter run, if that game were to somehow blow out, if you didn't play Tatum, I would not play Terrence Mann in a lineup with Tatum specifically. Like that would be like in those 10% or 5% of lineups. So if Tatum's going to be 90% owned, if I'm trying to figure out a way that Tatum fails, I think the game blows out. Terrence Mann is a guy to get sneaky in those kind of lineups. So that's like a thought process. If you're making 20 lineups, if you're making 40 lineups like me, I do have 2 shares and neither of them have Tatum in them. I think they're the only 2 on DraftKings I don't have Tatum with. I just want to let it be known.
That's a good way. Well, now I'm going to make some like that, but I'm putting Frank Kaminsky in it too, just because.
I was going to say, I got to see which
try
one
to catch up.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I said he was the best play on the slate. Didn't you hear me? Just taking it from you. Just taking it from you. Oh, man. So much to do. So how do you multitask on these shows, by the way? This is insanity. I have 300 lineups on DraftKings today, and I have 170 on FanDuel, and I'm trying to
not lose all your money.
Make the late slates. I am trying to do that. That is important. That is very important. Let's see. So I'm getting Magruder out of most everything after that starting lineup. I thought there was a chance randomly that he might start. Now that he's not, I still expect him to play, but like Bay is just a better play at 3,100. Spee's a better play at 3K probably, just from what I'm looking at from Alex. So.
All right. Jacob Kimball, I like your lineup. That's pretty good. Those are all solid players. But there's nobody in there I hate. So we'll leave it at that. Now I've got to relook. I'm up to 70% Kaminsky. I'm going to leave it there. You may like him more than me, but I said his name.
I like how I had 2% and now I have 95%. Like, what a time to be alive. Like, it is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, that just kind of goes to show. So we get, and I'm going to upload these and then we'll look at questions, but I'm just buying myself some time. So we talked a little bit about this on the last Late Site show. We get people are like, why build lineups early? Why are you doing all these shows? But then if we don't do the early shows, then they get mad. And I say, here's the value in them. It teaches you how to analyze the different looks. And when you hear, if the only thing you were doing was regularly listening to the strategy show at some point in the day, and just checking lineups or catching the last little bit of live before lock to see anybody who's scratching and reading Adam's deep dive, you can put together very competent lineups, especially on the late slate. There's no late slate content for it. Well, guess what? There actually is, because Adam's breaking down every game. and every team. Now, I may not quite go into in depth there, but if you start seeing the shows and you're building your own knowledge behind the scenes, or in the back of your mind, when you start winnowing down the player pool to just 4 teams, you now know who's deeper in the rotation. You now may have picked up, oh, I know this happens when this team faces this type of defense player, whatever it might be, and you can utilize that to your advantage because there's not enough content out there that focuses on this. So that I think is key. And that's what we're trying to do here, is all the stuff we've all learned the hard way. We're trying to bring it up in a way where you can see in real time what we're trying to do and how we're reacting to this. And yes, there are moments of sheer terror when you're doing this. And that's why, like I said, when I had my screw ups on whatever, I just, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it except not make the same mistake again. Right. And I make some of those same mistakes all the time, but when you go on tilt, you're not helping anything. You're just not. All right. My lineups are in. How did you go?
Well, that was an amazing monologue that helped me out a lot. So I appreciate that very much. Hey, I think I'm ready to roll now. I got up to 4% Kaminsky in my main lineups. I just had nowhere to go. I didn't have enough. Yeah, not enough
spots left. It's because we burned everything. Yeah, we burned everything on OKC.
Yeah, and you had to at that spot. But man, if you somehow you're sitting on some good stuff here in the night slate. If you could somehow resist. Oh shoot.
Rose, Ellington. I'm just doing name searches to make sure.
Good stuff in comparison. There were 8 guys active for Oklahoma City. So let's be serious. Yeah. I'm not regretting my decision. I didn't think that there was anything where I was like, oh, these are bad plays and I should wait for news and try to figure out if I should. And I'm somebody who likes to wait for late hammer games so I can react to the news quicker because I am by my computer and that's just what I'm used to. But in this situation, man, it's a bummer. I have a lot of lineups also with a K on the table on DraftKings, and I don't feel too bad about it. I have too much Isaiah Stewart that needs to change.
So we didn't mention really Tristan Thompson, and so people are asking about him versus
Tice.
No, versus Kaminsky.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about that?
Kaminsky. So they are pretty close on FanDuel. So 4,900 for Daniel Tice and 4,500 for Kaminsky. They're going to grade out about the same. Daniel Tice looks like a great GPP play in this situation. I've been on him quite a bit on a lot of these main slates. He's somebody who can actually step out and knock down some threes, kind of make things happen. He's spiked an upside in random spots as he's gone here. He's been playing big minutes, 34, 28, 27 the last 3. I do like getting to a lower Tice. I have 3 bigger lineups that I've made on FanDuel and some single entry stuff for the late slate. And one of the 3 has Daniel Tice in it. All 3 have Kaminsky, letting that be known.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to create. Yeah, I don't have enough, just eyeballing it. I don't have enough lineups left that have more than 1 or 2 spots that I really can't take advantage of Kaminsky.
Yeah, that's what I ran into too. And it's a bummer. There's nothing you can really do about it, but it is what it is. And what can you do? We made the right decision. It's just something where if you have positions open and you were able to get more than the 4% I was able to get to, that's awesome. But I was so stacked up in OKC today that there was nowhere else for me to go. And generally in those situations, I think in years past, we've had a lot of situations where we've tried to avoid from really overexposing ourselves to chalk and stuff. But the difference is now when you only have 8 guys in a rotation, it's really hard to get away from it. The Heat the other day, the Sixers, when they were going through it, it's just so difficult because they're going to project out so much better. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to succeed in that spot compared to other lower chalk.
Yep. So it looks like my available players haven't played yet, this is just kind of interesting relooking here at the carnage. So I got 19% Tatum to go on DK. I've got 17% Kemba, 8% Paul, 7% Leonard, 6% Bridges, 5 for Ayton and Cam Johnson, 3 for I had 3 from this jump for Kaminsky. Was ahead of there you go.
Look at you. Okay.
Mason Plumley, they're only 3%. So that one kind of stings a little. But yeah, I don't have any other room to put these guys because I went in on a lot of other cheapies. So that's the opportunity cost. And this is a perfect example of, is it bird in the hand of OKC versus, two that you can't get to. I don't know. You have to decide. So one thing I've done to help with some of this, and it didn't really work out tonight, but I usually run each of my lineups 2 or 3 times in different contests. So then I can say, I'm going to take this third and react to this news this way. Mm-hmm. And then I've got a chance to go. A lot of times we'll do that with baseball. I'll save, a quarter of my lineups for the last 7 games, 6 games, if it's a big slate of the night, and then figure out what's going on. And then I can stack from those games. Right. Mm-hmm. So you just do different things, but you can segment out your lineups like that. Just other ways to try stuff. Let's see.
My goodness.
I don't know. I didn't even look at the scoreboard here. That was a fast hour. See,
this is insanity.
And again, this is fun. So this is a show that we're still kind of developing. We're figuring out our stride. We're kind of trying to try different things, because again, we've had we had 3 out, we had the strategy show that ran about 80 or 90 minutes this morning. We had the Slate Starter podcast to get you another 35. We had an early deep dive. Deeper dive. We had the live before lock. Then we had the extra after live before lock talking about super draft. And now you got us for an hour here. So we're covering these things 16 ways to Sunday. Plus you got 4 free articles, that 3 of them breaking down our tools and different ways of looking at things. And then you got the deep dive, which is pound for pound the best free content out there, anywhere in any sport on any site. So all the information is here. What's that next step? Well, we want to show you how to put it together. Now, this is all happening behind the paywall as well. This is where you're getting the free shows where you're watching Alex and Steve Buzzard and Josh and Adam and Ben Rasa, and they're doing behind the paywall shows or the office hours, and they're just kind of helping you out for these different specific situations. So that's where we're sort of taking this lean on this, is we're not going to rehash all the games. It's too hard. We'll react to the various news that's out there, things that change like tonight, but we want to show you, what do we do with that? Right? Because you can't, I like Kaminsky. I can't get any more in my lineup. So there's nothing I can do.
I think anybody that late swaps would understand how good of a play Kaminsky is at this point now that he's starting. Again, 3,400. I would jam so much more of him than Jackson or Williams in that spot between those two, just because you would go Roby, you would maybe go Horford, and obviously Diallo I was going to have 100% of no matter what. He projected for near 40 for me, so it's impossible to get away from. I'm just trying to figure out for everybody out there, in terms of your reaction to this show, do you really enjoy talking about the main slate as we're going along? Do you enjoy talking about the late slate stuff as we're making our lineups? We're trying to combine a little bit of everything into it for you, talk about our process. We're building as we go. We do this quite a bit, EMac, and we're just trying to share with you a little bit of the process, trying to share with you a little bit of the strategy for everything. And, maybe we can all win some money together tonight. Go Kaminsky.
Absolutely. That would be fun. News God, thank you. Little heart symbol. You go get some Z's, man. You got a busy weekend coming up here. There's lots
you put the team on your back. He puts the team on his back.
Always.
Greg Jennings.
All right. This is going to do it for us. We're going to get on out of here, but thank you guys. Appreciate all of this. And again, we're starting it all off at 10 tomorrow morning. We got 6 or 7 hours worth of shows for you between in front of the paywall and behind the paywall. It's going to be a lot of fun. Heavy Super Bowl content. Again, lots of stuff on the Awesemo Podcast Network covering the Super Bowl already. Definitely check that out. You can follow Eric on Twitter at Eric Lindquist. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Awesemo _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.